This is not the first meeting of Allah and Barry, but this is one of the subsequent meetings. Like Barry used to come.
Wait, tell them who Barry is.
Oh, excuse me. Barry Gotteir was Mayor Lindsay, Mayor John V. Lindsay's chief executive aide and urban task force director. He was the director of the urban task force, which was a new thing in the 60s. The mayor's administration going into the communities and learning who the real leaders and shakers and movers was in the community, as opposed to the so-called nominal leaders, the Democratic Club, the Rent Strikers Club, or the Postal, whatever the case may be. Those were pseudo quasi leaders by virtue of votes during the democratic process. But the people that was in the street was the real leaders during the 60s, which was a volatile time. And the most powerful leader in the street at that time was the law. As the Lindsay administration learned from the sea cypherpunks, or who was making the noise at that time. 63, it was the Blood Brothers. 64, the Blood Brothers was identified as being 5%ers. 65, it was the 5%ers unequivocally making noise. 66 and 67, and even in 68. So the reports was the power was Allah, who had, as they had said, an anti-white militant youth group. That was their words, right? But they had to learn different by coming to Allah. After the governor had came to Allah first in 66 about his re-election. I was involved with those discussions in 60 in the Lincoln Projects and in Manawa when I took the word to Allah on behalf of Governor Nelson A. Rockefeller. And then in 67, Lindsay made an approach to the father through Barry Gotteir, and he wanted to know what, the administration could do for Allah, actually what he wanted. And the father had said the same thing that he told the police, that he wanted a place where he could teach his 5%ers in and take them off the street. He wanted them to have the education, to get a skilled trading profession, not only to get the G.E.Ds, but to get a skilled trading profession. So he had those discussions with Barry, and in almost short order, you're talking about at the April-May Parliament, June, then July 2nd, the father opened up a school. That the mayor already had a building that they won in a lien case back in 1965, right here on the block in the heart of Mecca. And that was a barbershop. We passed by that barbershop like daily, because the father's headquarters at that time was on this avenue between 126 and 127. He used to live right down the block at almost by 8th Avenue and 126th Street, behind the Apollo Theater. His gambling hole where he got shot to was around the corner of 127th Street and 7th Avenue. So this whole block, the father kind of traverse that he used to live on 8th Avenue, 126. He had a school on 127th. 7th Avenue between 126th and 127th. He had the gambling joint on 127th and 7th Avenue. And up the block, he had one of the first buildings that he had. Houses, apartment. I think it was 254 West 127th Street. And then when he went home on from 8th Avenue and 126th Street at the Unity Funeral Home. So he covered north, east, west, and south on this whole block. He got this whole block and got some significant activities all the way around. He made his babies and made his nation, and he used to recreate, and he was cremated here on all this block, north, east, and south. But anyway, the Lindsay administration conferred the building to the father. It was a one-story building. And at that time, it was just one side because it was a barber shop, and right next to the barber shop, adjacent to it, was a beauty parlor. And over time, we not only had the barber shop, it became the school. We eventually, after the father went home, got the beauty parlor because the woman, Miss Mary, she loved the father. And when she retired and gave up her business, she also gave us the beauty parlor, and we expand with more room. And as a result, father opened up the Street Academy. Initially, when it opened up, the New York Urban League was sponsoring the Street Academy concept in Harlem, New York, if you will. And it was a law Street Academy in Mecca. But under the auspices of the New York Urban League, because they had the teachers. They had the teachers that could get us the qualifications for the G.E.D. But they wasn't qualified to deal with the supreme mathematics, nor was they conversed in the 120. And that's what we wanted. That's what we was about. We would hone our skills in English, in math, in social studies, in science, because that's what the core curriculum was. That's what was required. But the difference was we in a law Street Academy in Mecca. And as the title implied, this is a law Street Academy, and we want to deal with what Allah was teaching us. So the teachers couldn't handle it. And I doubt if they lasted 2 months. By September came, they was out of here, and the father was the sole educator, teacher at his Street Academy.
So build on, like you were just saying before, like how like the father would stop and tell you how to break down the syllables and everything.
And see, the Urban League teachers became frustrated as well, because Allah was a perfectionist in teaching. That he would go to the basis of, or the root, or whatever it was, and he would break it down analytically so that you could build it up for your own self. This was the implications of knowledge of self. That he would give us the lead to a subject, but in the final analysis, the understanding of that subject was what we understood and what we could apply. And like one of the words that the father really hit on real tough that I liked to always refer to. One time we was in the class, of which I was one of the first students in the first class. Teacher was telling us about breaking down a word, helicopter. And he broke it down, helicopter. And he didn't break it down, helicopter. The father came in and broke it down and said, break it down, helicopter. And when he said it, each one of the words came into my mind's eye. Hello, copter. Now, I had seen somewhere, or either in my study, that hello is a Greek word meaning sun. Bam. And then I researched later, but not at that time, that Cop was the ancient word for Coptic, Ethiopian Coptic religion. And it was the first reference that I ever seen in my life of Afro-Asiatic. Now, I was always looking for, after I found out who the original man was, the Asiatic black man. So in my research, I had to find the Asiatic black man, not the Asian that everybody was referring to as the Asiatic, which I wasn't looking for, and that wasn't it. I'm talking about the original Asiatic black man. Where was my land? Where was my reference? Where can I find the connection to an Afro-Asiatic? And Afro meaning me with my broad nose, my thick lips, and, you know, kinky hair, if you will. Me, as opposed to an Asian. And the Asian, you generally in the world at that time was recognized as the Chinese, slanted eyes, Korean, Japanese, and those were considered Asian. You know, so we wasn't really talking about that. Now, from what the father showed me about helicopter, I learned a clear reference of blacks in Ethiopia consider themselves as Asiatics. And Ethiopia was one of the founding lands of the original man. Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan, as we call Nubia, and our last reigning king, the monarch, was Ethiopian, Haile Selassie. And that was the last land that the Europeans couldn't conquer. So all that came into play when I did the research, but I wouldn't have did the research if the father wouldn't have broke that word down in syllabus. Now he gave it to me in syllabus and I was getting all that out. And Ter was like, it took me to 3. Understanding, or either like terrestrial, the land, Ter, T-E-R, terrestrial, that was the N word of helicopter. So I had a prefix, a root, and a suffix. So he gave it to me and to work it down. And you really want to get to the root. Okay, what was at the beginning, what was at the end, but the meat of it was the understanding, the root. So now I got the root, and the root was copter, like Coptic. And now I got it. Now I'm breaking it down. Now I got to put the mathematics to it. So it was the build, equality, knowledge, wisdom, I-C, cipher, power, true, equality, rule. Bam! Now I got the supreme alphabets to it. Now there's mathematics to that. I got to go back to the build, the equality, I just had, knowledge, wisdom, the born, the understanding, knowledge, power, the wisdom, the wisdom cipher, power, knowledge build. So now I got that. Now I got to bring all that and get a sum. And from that sum, I had to born that understanding to just one digit. So now I took it through all that, and that was like opening up a whole world, because I found out that when I took it through that analytic process, it became unlimited. It wasn't no limitation to it. Because if I dealt with the bill, then I had to deal with the bill of the born, you, I love, divine. And then when I dealt with the born, you, love, I, divine, I had to take each one of them. The born, be a born, the I, Islam, the you, universal you, the love, hell right, leave hell, the divine. I had to deal with all of that. So it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And we just kept getting more and more and more and more, and it was unlimited. Like the mathematics was unlimited, so it was the supreme mathematics, supreme alphabets, the highest mathematics, and that's where the father took us. And that's why the New York Urban League teachers became frustrated that they couldn't take us there, and we knew that science, and we was able to take them there, and we became their teachers. And it was a real academy now, because in the academy, the teacher is really a facilitator. And that's what Allah loved doing. Facilitating the knowledge of ourselves. He was empowering us to study the science of everything mathematically. Break it down to build it back up. The way that you understand it. It wasn't your understanding, it was the understanding. It was the cream that you can get the best part out of it mathematically. And if you get the best part out of it mathematically, then you're getting it from a universal perspective. And you was the 21st letter of the alphabet. That's wisdom, knowledge, born understanding. So now you're getting understanding out of it. So you're taking it to the universal level with the universal mathematics, which is the most high mathematics, because again, they applied universally. That was the law. Mathematics, supreme mathematics was universal. That is the law. The universal language of the universe is mathematics. So the father was taking us there, and we loved it, and we loved it, and we loved it, and we loved it. And it was demonstrated not in isolation of him just teaching us, but it was demonstrated by him bringing others in to, give us, and we can make the comparison for ourselves, that we had and respected for a while at least, the New York Urban League teachers, because they was trying, and they, had a profession, and they was teachers, in the system, and came back to give back to the community for the New York Urban League, a black organization, right, of social equality, but they wasn't up to speed at our level. And the father used to demonstrate that he let them teach us or show us something, and then he expect us to question it and take it from there, and we would take it from there, but he would prompt us on, he would facilitate us on it, that if he came through the class and we didn't ask the right question, then he would stop the teachers and lead us in the right direction to ask the right questions. And my perfect example was the helicopter, because I really, really loved that. To see a different word for sun, and it was a mode of travel, and it was a mode of travel to go up, and then in any direction, and that made me think of a circumference of the diameter in the circumference, because when you got a circle 360, and the diameter is the center point, and you can go in any directions of a radius from that diameter. So it took me there, and that was the basis of Barry coming around to help us get that street academy. And not only the street academy, from the street academy, a lot more activity took place. That we went on the first plane ride. They got a picture of the plane ride with Lindsay right here. This one right here, with Lindsay on the plane ride with us. They got the father right there, and Lindsay holding the baby, a black baby, and we on the plane ride with Lindsay. So we went on the plane ride. Barry Gotteir all writing in his book about the experience he had on the first bus ride that we went on, and we used to go on the bus ride almost every week. We went on a boat ride. Used to go to Apollo show every week. We used to go to Broadway plays, all the cultural events. We had access to it, and a whole lot of other activities that the city sponsored. We didn't have the money, and the father didn't have the money, but he knew where the money was, and he knew how to get it and use it for us. The father told him when they asked him what he wanted, he said he didn't want nothing for himself, but he wanted a school to teach us in. And that was the first request that he made for us, a school. And then the other stuff came along, and we just stretched out. And Lindsay, we was scholars, and they knew it. We was highly rated in that we knew how to research. We knew how to science things up. And they got that impression. And Lindsay was real enthused about that, because he raved about us in Washington, D.C. at a Senate hearing. And not only did he rave about us, then he told them that we wasn't anti-white nor pro-black, even though they got the negative perception from the portrayal of the press that wasn't us. That was the incorrect portrayal. But he said, and he went on record to be quoted in the senatorial record, that Allah was the best at face-to-face. No, he said Allah was far constructive and cooperative at face-to-face relationships. Face-to-face confrontation and relationships. That's what it was. And the senators, of course, was amazed that here it is, this is a mayor of the capital city of the world, the Mecca of tourism, and he talking about a black man that just got out of Manawa for the criminally insane, a hospital for the criminally insane, and he raving about him. And he raving about him being far more constructive and cooperative in face-to-face confrontation. A confrontation is a conflict, but when you come face-to-face with Allah in any conflict, He gonna be constructive and He gonna be cooperative, but it's gonna be based on righteousness, and He gonna be dealing in them human relationships, being just and true and having no unrighteousness in Him. And that was the impression that He really gave Lindsay, because Lindsay seemed like he really was in love with the father, and the father's wife was definitely in love with, Lindsay's wife was definitely in love with the father, as she loved his hands, that he said could have been a concert pianist, amongst other things, right? And we knew what the mother things was, but we didn't go into that, you know. But they really, really was impressed with the father, as we were, because the father to us was God. That's Allah. That's the supreme being. That's the son of man. I mean, he could do no wrong, and he did no wrong. But he did everything for us. And I always stayed in the back of my mind that them motherfuckers tried to kill him just for him coming to teach us. You know? And that stayed in the back of my mind. Why would somebody want to stop him from teaching the babies? And that's what we were. We was babies, you know?
If Mecca did this,